Hello and welcome to Alicia Moose Knitting. This is episode 9 where we're going to talk about some knitting and crochet today. Unfortunately, no spinning or weaving has gotten done in the last 2 weeks. We'll start out with what we're wearing. I'm wearing the summer sweater by Courtney Kelley, and I made it in the Queensland collection Dungarees paint in the colorway Platypus. It's a nice blue color. The yarn is a cotton acrylic blend, I believe. It has a nice lace detail in the shoulder, and then the body of the sweater is just plain stockinette. So once you get past the sleeve separation, it's just really easy, round and around. Nice project to take on vacations. Gwendolyn today is wearing a crocheted hexi cardigan that I made using just different acrylic yarns that I had around the house. We actually have 2 finished objects for this week. I finished a pair of socks for me using the KC Sock Star in the Tutti Fruity Pop. So last time you saw these, I was right here. These were toe up, so I'd finished most of the sock, just had a little bit more to do. So I was able to complete this sock and the second one. So I'm excited to have these off the needles and have my pair of socks for April complete. And then the second object that I was able to, well, I say finished, but it's not completely finished yet. But that is the Agnes cardigan by Drops in the Caron Simply Soft in the colorway Abyss. So it's the cardigan for my daughter, and I was able to finish it. I don't have the buttons sewn on yet, so we need to do that. And I did not weave in the ends for the sleeves. I have a little bit more yarn left over from the body, and I'm debating about whether or not to make the sleeves a little bit longer. So we'll see what we think about that. So the Agnes cardigan has a nice lace detail in the top, and then the bottom is just all stockinette, and it has some garter ridges instead of ribbing on all of the trims. So this was knit up in a US 6 knitting needle, which is, I forget, a 4mm needle. So the whole cardigan is done in the same size needles. You don't have to switch because there's no ribbing. So this will be really cute once we get the buttons on. I just didn't get a chance to do that yet. So we look forward to having that complete, although it might have already gotten too warm to wear it. Next, we'll move on to what we're working on. So the first thing that I worked on was a Silver Linings hat by Kristen Hipsky, and it is in the KC Sock Star Pinky Peach Pop. So last time I was right here where this marker is, so I was able to get about 2 inches done. So not a whole lot of progress, but it is progress. So that's the Silver Lining hat is constructed similar to the Muscle Burrow, where you start at the crown and do all of your increases and then knit a big long tube and put a crown on the other end. So when it's finished, it'll be a double thick hat, and it'll actually have a quadruple thickness when you fold up the brim over your ears. So even though it's a fingering weight hat, it ends up being a nice warm hat. The next project I'm working on is actually the same hat, but with different yarns, except for I don't have enough to make the whole hat, so it is morphing into a, oh my goodness, a sockhead hat by Kelly McClure. So I believe I'm almost to the point where I'm going to start the ribbing. Last time I was right here where Elmo is, so I've worked up a little bit of ways from Elmo. So we're almost to the ribbing part for the sockhead hat. I will go back in and check the measurements for what it's supposed to be knit from the top of the ribbing to the crown and see what it says, but we don't want to run out of yarn, so we'll have to figure out if we have to make it a little bit shorter than what the Saltwater hat actually is. The next project that got a lot of love were the socks for my husband. So last time you saw these, I had just completed the toe. So I just had to this marker, and I was able to knit, for this sock, we did 100 rounds, and then just started the ribbing. And the other sock, I had the toe, and we were able to get through 60 rounds. So these socks are going to be toe up with an afterthought heel. We're actually out of town for a while, and I decided that these socks would be a good walking around project for while we were out of town. So that's why I decided that they were going to have an afterthought heel instead of any other kind of heel. So I'm knitting these on a US 1, which is a 2.25 millimeter hook, or needle, excuse me. The hats are both knit on a US 2, which is a 2.75 millimeter needle. And then, because I felt like I didn't have enough going on, I decided to start a new cardigan for the low-key Cardi Mal. So this cardigan is the Bienvendas cardigan by Vera Sanon, and I'm using a red cotton for this. I was actually out shopping with my mother one day and found a cone of cotton yarn. It was labeled as 8-2 cotton, which I know you would normally use for weaving, but I decided it would be a great weight for a cardigan. But it was in a resale craft store, and they had it on sale for $4 for an entire, probably like 500 gram cone of yarn. So I couldn't pass that up. So this is the cardigan so far. It starts at the top. Can I use you for a minute? So you start at the top, but instead of having a smaller neckline, it's actually going to cross over, and then the top two sections will actually completely cross over, and then it kind of spreads out from there. So maybe next time I'll actually have past the sleeve split done, and it'll make a little more sense. It's kind of hard to show on the needles. Oh no, your hair's stuck. Too much hair. So it's kind of hard to show on the needles because it started out looking like a bottom-up sweater because of how many stitches there were, and now that I'm increasing for the shoulder, it's becoming even more stitches and getting a little more confusing on the needles. But I am 13 rows into the increasing for the shoulders, and I believe I have 32 rows, or I think I have 32 right side rows, and I've done 13 right side rows. So I have a little bit of a ways to go until I complete the yoke for this cardigan, but hopefully it won't take too much longer. The next thing we've actually both been working on is our Squishmallows crochet kit. Do you want to grab the box? So we are making Omar. That's his original name. I've been told he's going to get a new name. But we are working on the last couple of rounds of the body, and then we're going to start doing our decreases. So Gwendolyn is using the yarn that came with the kit, and I'm using some scrap yarn.
So you're going to have a green Omar.
Yes, I will have a green Omar. So I've finished the body up to where I'm going to start the decreases, but you are almost there. But we're doing this together, and Gwendolyn's never done any crochet decreases. So we are making sure we stay together step by step, so that way I can help make sure she understands everything that's going on. And then the last project that I've been working on is I actually went to Joann's with my mother, and they had some of the Flower Power all-in-one, the Red Heart crochet things. So it's an interesting setup. You have to have exact right tension to get the flower to turn out right. And I have found that I don't like it and will never purchase it again. It says for the pattern to use a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, but I have gone up to a 6 millimeter crochet hook and have actually, on a lot of my squares, had to cut the yellow because of how much extra I've had. They've all ended up about the same size. Well, you're supposed to have a lot of the blue at the end so you can seam them together. But you're supposed to have 24 inches of blue, and that is clearly a lot more than 24 inches of blue. But I've completed 9 squares. I have the other ones are blocking. They're blocking. So I believe it says that it makes, how many squares is it supposed to make? 12 squares. So I have 3 more to make, and then hopefully I'm going to be able to either sew them together or crochet them together, and I'm going to turn them into a bag.
The other bag you made out of squares.
Mm-hmm. So it will be the crochet granny bag. So that is all we are currently working on. We're hoping that we can make it to Frederick Fiber Fest coming up tomorrow. And then next week will be Maryland Sheep and Wool. So there will not be an episode next week because we will be a little busy doing that.
Some new projects to show then.
Oh, we don't already have enough projects?
Nope.
Okay. Well, you heard it here. We don't have enough projects, so maybe we'll start something new. But thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you gave you a little bit of inspiration maybe for your next new project.
Bye. Bye.